Tonight, we are seeing deeper divides, even worse than before in this country, and the president's rhetoric is definitely ginning it up. We're going to show you what we mean. Then, the latest numbers show disarray in the Democratic field, and now some big names are being floated to jump into the race. We'll explain why that's not a good sign for the Dems. Also, co-host of The View, Sunny Hostin, she'll join us. Her new podcast tells a true crime story that's so incredible, it sounds like a movie plot. Evening, everybody, and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French. We're going to start tonight with the politics of fear and how President Trump uses that again and again without any apparent concern for the consequences. This is what I mean.
And if these people that I watch in those debates ever got their hands on the United States government, 401ks, the values of your company, everything else that we talk about we're so proud of, it's down the tubes. You have no choice but to vote for me because your 401ks, down the tubes, everything's going to be down the tubes. They know they can't win an election day, so they're pursuing an illegal, invalid, and unconstitutional bullshit impeachment. The Democrat agenda will deliver a socialist nightmare.
Trump's also hammering Republicans who dare to have the temerity to disagree with him or criticize him. And he's doing it, of course, on Twitter. The never-Trumpers, he says, Republicans, though tough on respirators with not many left, they're in a certain ways worse and more dangerous for our country than the do-nothing Democrats. Watch out for them. They are human scum. Again, the language of our president. Now, instead of backtracking or renouncing the White House press secretary, she defended her boss's comments.
It is horrible that people are working against a president who's delivering results for this country and has been since day one. And the fact that people continue to try to negate anything that he's doing and take away from the good work he's doing on behalf of the American people, they deserve strong language like that.
So, again, good calling Republicans human scum for having the nerve to criticize. Now, Trump supporters, they're just as fiery and divisive as their fearless leader. Major League umpire Rob Drake. Why are you talking about him, Rich? Well, he's in hot water over this tweet. And tell me if it sounds familiar. I will be buying an AR-15 tomorrow because if you impeach my president this way, you'll have another civil war. Hashtag MAGA 2020. By the way, the misspelling of Civil War with an A and L it's all him. That's not on us. Okay, things have gotten so bad in D.C. More than 30 Republican House members stormed the impeachment hearings yesterday to protest the process and also to delay things. I should mention, there are 48 Republican members of the three committees running the hearings, so the GOP is part of the process. By the way, you know, why let facts get in the way of a good political theater here? Even the chief legal analyst at Fox News sided with the Democrats on this one.
So I get it. The Republicans are frustrated, and they wanted to make a point, and they made their point.
They might have made it.
But this is just not the most effective way to show respect for what your colleagues are doing.
And it's not just about respect. We're talking about basic facts. Your party chose who was going to go in the room. And that charade of that clown car of those guys trying to burst into the meeting, I should remind you, some of them are actually members of the committees that are doing the investigation. This is all political theater, and I don't think it was good at that. Now, it leads to no surprise why, with all that as a backdrop, we're seeing shocking polls like this. New numbers from Georgetown University say 2/3 of the American public that was asked say we are on the edge of a civil war. I wonder where they got that idea. Remember this, last month, the president quoted a pastor who said the following: if the Democrats are successful in removing the president from office, which they never will be, it will cause a civil war-like fracture in this nation from which our country will never heal. That was Pastor Robert Jeffress. I should mention again, the president decided to take that and, as you can see, retweet it. Joining me now, Dominic Carter, political journalist and author, and Andrew Whitman, senior political correspondent. So I speak for myself where I was on the fence a month or so ago about this idea of impeachment for two reasons. One is there seemed to be an impossibility of ever getting the necessary Republican support in the Senate, and maybe even the Dems, all getting on board, at least in a unified front, to pursue this. There was also another reason. I have never seen the level of crazy. I'm 50, okay, but in my lifetime, not really remembering, obviously, the late 60s and early 70s, but the ugliness in these isolated incidents we've seen, from the Charlottesville to some of the targeted shootings, whether it be media or groups or attacking people of different faiths or colors, I just imagine that on steroids. If the president, who has shown no regulator on where he's willing to go, said, they're trying to, have a coup on this country, and he said those words before, you need to, take up arms. Like, I'm legitimately worried, still am. Now, given everything we've learned about Ukraine, imagine the message you send if you don't have any accountability for those actions. But I don't think I'm being an alarmist when I say, I get why a lot of those people say that. I don't think we are. I think cooler heads will prevail. I think the military certainly will not be in lockstep with whatever the president says, like you'll see in other juntas and in other third world countries. But nonetheless, because of who he is, what he has said, and some of the ugliness that he has let percolate to the surface, it's going to be an ugly year, Dominic.
Absolutely, Richard. I think we all realize this, frankly, the day after the election. I remember we had just got off the air the night that Mr. Trump became president, and I ran into some African Americans in Midtown, and as you might expect, they were livid. But I think that we're starting to see what he had promised, I believe, during the debate with Hillary, with Hillary Clinton, when he said if he lost the election, that it would amount to a civil war then. Richard, we are really in uncharted territory, and I am telling you, this is what I greatly fear. If he loses, and like I believe he's going to, or is removed from office, and he says he's not going, who's going to make the president of the United States go?
I think at that point, Andrew, the Republicans would say, I don't know anymore, but I would think they'd say enough is enough. But I'm going to give Exhibit A in terms of me not recognizing certain people on Capitol Hill. There was always the Freedom Caucus types. They came before Donald Trump, okay? But there were certain voices who, while they were partisans, they would put country above party. Lindsey Graham always jumped to mind. Mm-hmm. This is Lindsey Graham in 1999, obviously when we're talking impeachment and the standards he believed that we needed to have related to Bill Clinton.
From my point of view, to impeach any president over a phone call like this would be insane.
You don't even have to be convicted of a crime to lose your job in this constitutional republic. If this body determines that your conduct as a public official is clearly out of bounds in your role. Impeachment is about cleansing the office. Impeachment is about restoring honor and integrity to the office.
I don't want to make this about Lindsey Graham because there's a lot of Lindsey Grahams out there right now in the Republican Party. But what happened? Is it all just about fear and political survival? They don't want to cross Trump. I mean, Senator Thune yesterday said, hey, we're going to have to look at this. Not that he wanted impeachment. He didn't go as far as Romney. And today he immediately backtracked. I underestimated, even in the face of this, I thought good politics is hold your gunpowder, see how this plays out.
Well, I think Lindsey Graham has done the political calculation that tethering himself to Donald Trump helps him win re-election in South Carolina and also helps him have some policy influence over Trump, which he's had more than a lot of other senators have had because he gives Trump what he wants.
I mean, he's the biggest guy who would not want that. He can't control it.
I understand that, but I think he would assume that on the balance that he's gotten more out of it than he's had to give up by being as obsequious to Trump as he's been. But I also think that Graham would be one of those guys who the day after the election, if the results don't go Trump's way, would be like, you gotta go. And I know that there are enough Republicans, I hope there are enough Republicans who have respect for the Constitution, for the government, and for the rule of law, that I don't think they would follow Trump. I think you would get some of his more outlandish supporters who would follow it. You might theoretically, if he called for violence, get some incidents of violence throughout the country. But I'm not with the people in that poll, the 66% who think that we're headed towards a civil war or we're close to a civil war. I don't think we are. I think we're just in a very divided place.
I don't think we are, but I think that we underestimate, if people only live, I mean, if you're watching me, and you're probably watching me in the Eastern Seaboard here, in the Bostons and the DCs and the Phillies and the New Yorks, that you see, you know, you don't see what I know you see when you travel, and myself as well, when you go to different parts of this country, that because unlike any other chapter in American history, yes, Fox has been conservative for a long time, and you have the other side of the aisle that's not, but Fox has never been as off the rails in prime time in terms of creating alternate realities. And if that's the only thing these people consume, they're being fed complete falsehoods, no facts, and they're hearing words like coup, and they're hearing words like they're going to come and take your guns away, and they're hearing things like the socialism's coming now and all the rest. And they're believing it. And they think the America that they grew up with is about to be taken away from them. And the only one who can protect them is Donald J. Trump. When you put it in that context, you get why people are worried for a guy who only looks out for himself and will do only what is in his self-interest to protect his own self-interest, that, you know, the worst is yet to come from him, is my only point. And hopefully, the Congress is the only regulator out there that can say, no, no, that's not true. That is a high crime, or that is horrible behavior. A president can't use a foreign country to basically, you know, extort them to go and investigate a political rival. You know, I'm still waiting for that, though.
Well, Richard, what comes to mind to me, and I can't help but think this, is that to the Trump supporters, these are the same people that very well remember that Trump came after the first black president. And so then you add Make America Great Again. Then you add the MAGA hats. And so I am worried. I don't know about the exact definition of a civil war, but I am worried because you have that side that no matter what this man does, as he proudly says, they are with him. And then you have the majority that says, wait a minute, this is cuckoo, this is going too far, we didn't sign up for this. And so where do we get the middle? Because he's not going to concede 1 inch, not one, because he knows, as you've reported night after night, that if he does and he steps out of that Oval Office, the Southern District might be waiting for him with a criminal indictment.
And as a private citizen, he can't be waving that pardon pad. Now, Andrew, I come back to that 30-plus Republicans who did that stunt. Now, there's some factual, real issues with what they did. They brought phones into, obviously, a secure environment.
The most secure room in the
county. Right, imagine, okay? But some of them were members of the committees that were actually doing the investigating, okay? Some of them stored into a meeting that they already weren't allowed into, forgetting the idiocy of all that. Where was the leadership to say, no, what are you doing? We got to live in this house after he's gone.
The leadership was involved. Steve Scalise was one of the guys who went in there.
To my point, there used to always be this thing that, you know, the Senate, you know, was the sauce of the cool, you know, but that the rules of this place survived every president, every administration, every party, okay? And I don't know if you put it all back together the way it is before, but we're seeing, forget about a lack of norms, we're seeing a destruction of just basic governance that's being abetted by a national party.
We are, but a little perspective. There were 35 Republicans who stormed into that room yesterday. There's 197 Republicans who serve in the House of Representatives, which means 160 of them.
Well, some of them were in that room. Who knows if they would have joined?
So 140. Right. The majority of Republicans in the House did not take part in that stunt, in part because of respect for the institution, in part because maybe they knew or recognized the fact that there are Republicans who are in that chamber and the talking point is bogus. It is, to me, while their behavior was inappropriate yesterday, it shows how empty the tank is in terms of the defense of this president. They cannot defend him on the merits. They cannot defend him on the information that's come out through these depositions so far. So what can they do? They can make a big show about the process and claim that they're being treated unfairly, claims that will evaporate once this impeachment process goes public and they can hear the charges against the president.
All right, stay with me, guys. On the other side of the break, we'll go to the other side of the aisle, if you will. We'll take a look at the 2020 race and some new numbers out that are frankly baffling to the three of us who look at these all the time. Polls all over the place. We'll explain why that's not good news for the Dems and also discuss why some other really big names who are on the sideline right now are being really encouraged to become possible candidates.